This is an excerpt from my book, Traveling the Wilderness Road. On this leg of our journey on the Wilderness Road, we will explore the route in Lee County, Virginia. From the top of Powell Mountain, continue westward on US 58, US 421 for 1.8 miles, descending the western slope of the mountain. The vine along the roadside is kudzu, a climbing vine that kills or damages other plants by smothering them under a layer of leaves. Kudzu is most common in the southeastern states. It was planted along steep roadsides to prevent soil erosion. Some folks say kudzu will cover trees, telephone poles, and slow-moving cows. Near the foot of the mountain, turn right onto Cane Gap Road, Virginia 612, and go 3.1 miles. Since we are heading in the opposite direction from the pioneers on their way to Kentucky, we will discuss the route in more detail on our way back. Park at Mizpah Independent Church on the left. The Duff Cemetery is located behind the church. It is named for the Duff family buried here, who were the first settlers in Duffield, including the previously mentioned Robert Duff. Members of the Archibald Scott family are also buried in this cemetery, although their graves are probably marked only with field stones. This rich meadowland was settled by Archibald and Fanny Dickinson Scott in 1782. The Scotts planted 10 acres in corn, and by the Corn Right Law received a land grant of 100 acres for each acre of corn. They built a blockhouse, which became known as Scott's Station, near our current location. Scott's Branch runs by the foot of the hill west of the cemetery. It empties into Wallens Creek. On June 29, 1785, Chief Binge and a war party of Shawnee invaded the Scotts' house. Archibald Scott was shot immediately, and their 4 children were killed as well. Fanny was taken captive, but after 11 days, she escaped and made her way to New Garden in Clinch Valley. It was at Cain's Gap where, in 1793, Ensign Moses Cockrell's mule supply train met Chief Binge and his war party. After his company was killed, Cockrell ran 3½ miles to Scott's Station. Binge reportedly threw his hatchet at Cockrell just as the ensign crossed the fence into the security of the station. Turn around and go back the way we came on Cane Gap Road, Virginia 612, for 3.1 miles. The road crosses Scott's Branch near an old store, which we'll see on the left. We are roughly on the route of the original Wilderness Road and are now heading in the direction the pioneers would have traveled as they made their way westward. We will see Wallens Creek on the left, and we will cross it in a couple of places as we drive down the valley. When the water was low, the travelers probably stayed on the flat northern bank of Wallens Creek, but during wet weather, they no doubt followed the ridge line farther north of the creek bank. Turn right onto US 58, US 421 north, and go 0.3 miles. U-turn on the left at Ray Rasnick Road, Virginia 702, or at the vacant store on the corner, and go back 0.1 mile. Pull off the road at the historical markers, which will now be on the right. The Death of Boone's Son marker reads, In this valley, on 10 October 1773, Delaware, Shawnee, and Cherokee Indians killed Daniel Boone's eldest son, James, and 5 others in their group of 8 settlers en route to Kentucky. Separated from Daniel Boone's main party, the men had set up camp near Wallens Creek. At dawn, the Indians attacked and killed James Boone, Henry Russell, John and Richard Mendenhall, brothers, a youth whose last name was Drake, and Charles, one of 2 slaves in the party. Isaac Crabtree and Adam, a slave, escaped. This event prompted Boone and his party to abandon their first attempt to settle Kentucky. The story of James Boone's massacre was discussed earlier in this publication. The Fanny Dickinson Scott Johnson marker reads, "In this valley, in June 1785, Fanny Dickinson Scott's husband, Archibald Scott, their 4 children, and a young male member of the nearby Ball family were killed by members of 4 different Indian tribes. The rest of the Ball family escaped, but Fanny Scott was taken prisoner. She later was able to flee her captors. After evading Indians and enduring many hardships, she reached the New Garden settlement in present-day Russell County by 11 August. Newspapers as far away as Philadelphia reported her ordeal. She later married Thomas Johnson, for whom Johnson County, Tennessee, is named. She died in May 1796 in Russell County. We were near her home at Scott Station when we stopped at the Duff Cemetery earlier. Continue on US 58 East, US 421 South for 0.2 mile and turn right onto Middle Wallens Creek Road, Virginia 612. Park at the little store on the right. There is no photo opportunity here, but we can learn more about the importance of this area. The community of Stickleyville was named for Vastine Stickley, an early settler here. The Stickley House later became known as the Stout Hotel and served as a stopover for travelers along the Wilderness Road. In its earliest version, the trail to Kentucky followed Wallens Creek westward from here along what is now Middle Wallens Creek Road, Virginia 612, then crossed Wallens Ridge at Slagle's Gap. In 1781, the state improved the road so it would accommodate wagons and ran the road along what is now Old US 58 to Dot. There is currently no vehicular route across Slagle's Gap. If it had rained recently, this route was prone to become swampland. This helps to explain why the travelers chose higher ground during wet weather. It has been suggested that the massacre of James Boone and the other members of his party occurred at Fannon's Spring. The spring lies between the road and Wallens Creek along Middle Wallens Creek Road, Virginia 612, about 2½ miles west of Stickleyville. It is said to have flowed with such force that it bubbled out of the ground in a mushroom shape. I have been unable to locate this spring, but I have included a photograph of one of the numerous natural springs that occur in Southwest Virginia. As we travel the Wilderness Road, there may be regions where we will see bear grass. Dr. Thomas Walker applied the name bear grass to what would later be known as Powell River. Dr. Walker entered in his journal on April 12, 1750, quote, "From this mountain we rode on 4 miles to Beargrass River. Small cedar trees are very plenty on the flat ground nigh the river, and some barberry trees on the east side of the river. On the banks is some bear grass." End quote. Bear grass occurs in several locations on Wallens Creek and Powell River. A beargrass thicket is also known as a canebrake or reed patch because the beargrass can be described as a cane or reed. In pioneer days, bears hibernated in the tall grass and were often hunted and shot in the thickets. The canes make rudimentary fishing poles.